And joining us now, great to welcome back. He hasn't been with us in a while, and that's my fault, but he's a good friend to the show here, good friend to me. He's been down in our area here in where we broadcast from, Sarasota, many times in the past, and joining us now to talk about his book. It's really interesting, kind of a biography. It is a biography is what it is. Bill Press, From the Left, A Life in the Crossfire. You all know him from his work on television, shows like Crossfire. He's got his own daily show, radio show, and online show as well, and Bill joined us by telephone. Bill, it's been, I think I checked the archives, about 7 years since we chatted with you, so I'm sorry about that, but how have you been?
That's too damn long. How are you? I have been great. I'm sorry I haven't been back your way, but it's good to rejoin you.
I know we used to come down. They used to have a series of lectures every, usually in the fall and winter season, where they'd bring down usually politics, political pundits. You came down to quite a few of those, and unfortunately they ended those. So I don't know what happened there, but we miss you.
You know, that's too bad. I forget the name of the woman who organized it. She was really, really good and very full of energy. Got lots of great people down there, and I love discovering sort of a pocket, a blue pocket, right in the red state of Florida that I found always very welcoming. People very enthusiastic, and it was great fun. So love to come back sometime.
Sarasota is kind of an unusual, like you said, political area. Of course, Vern Buchanan's been the congressman. He's a Republican, but like you said, there is a little bit of a corridor, like almost like the Florida corridor between Orlando and Tampa, that has a bit of a Democratic streak to it. So it's always a battle down here. There's another battle coming up this fall as well for the congressional seat. He's going to have a bit of a race, I think, this year, Buchanan.
And also, I remember a great bookstore downtown. I hope it's still there, downtown Sarasota. But
no, that became an Italian restaurant. The owner of that left.
No! Oh, God.
The man that owned that, he was with the public TV station in Tampa. He ran that for many years, and then he had his bookstore, and then he sold it. I believe he's up in your neck of the woods in Washington. That's where last I heard he went. I can't think of his last name now, but that's who owned that bookstore.
You know, we have lost too many independent bookstores. It's really sad. Just like the news today, that the New York Daily News, right, cut its staff in half.
I saw that. Yeah.
It's happening to local newspapers, happening to local bookstores. It's sad.
Yeah, I grew up in New York, and the Daily News was one of those papers I, learned, you read from the back to the front, the sports pages first, since I was 5 years old. I grew up with that paper. It's sad when you see that.
I know, and whenever I go to New York, of course, Washington, not that far from New York, I always grab, actually both the Post, which is a lot more conservative, and the Daily News. I just love those tabloids. I think they're fun, and just keep. It's a way for people easily to get into the news, and with a local flavor, right? Which
sure.
Enough of these big nationwide chains for newspapers. I like the local newspapers.
Yeah,
so.
Nothing wrong with
maybe we're just old fashioned, Doug. I don't know.
I guess so. I mean, like you said, Dad would bring home the paper from work, and I would read it, at night when he came home. I was a little kid, and then you grow up with newspapers. I still get the New York paper, the Post, delivered on the weekend just to have a taste of home, and you miss that, if you don't have a newspaper every once in a while.
No, absolutely. Some people don't even know what a newspaper is.
No, people under 30 don't have no clue. Well, let's talk about your book, Bill. And I had a chance to read it over the weekend, and I knew a part of your story, from talking to you in the past, but I didn't know a lot of it. You actually went to I knew this a little bit of it. You went to the seminary, but you were there quite a long time before you decided to hit the road into politics.
Well, thank you for the good words. Yeah, this is my memoir. I call it Memoir Part 1 because I got a long way to go yet. I'm not about to hang it up by any means. But I've been very blessed, very lucky. I've had a fun ride with living in some great places, working with some great people, all the way from growing up in a little town in Delaware to going to California, getting involved in politics. Originally through the Gene McCarthy for President campaign way back in 1968, my first campaign, and then moving on to be Jerry Brown's policy director, then getting involved in radio and television, and moving to the East Coast to do Crossfire and other shows on CNN and MSNBC. And I just kind of wanted to, tell my story so far. I think it's been a fun ride for me, and I hope it's a fun read for other people. The book's been out a month or so. It's gotten good reviews and good comments from people, and it's just fun to share those stories.
Bill Press from the Left, A Life in the Crossfire is the full title of the book. And, I really enjoyed, like I said, I knew a little bit about your story. I thought you grew up in California. I didn't even know you were from the East Coast. So that was some news to me.
Well, it's like, is anybody from California?
I guess not.
It's like Florida, right?
That's true.
Actually, our two sons are Californians, but they went there from Delaware. And you mentioned the seminary. I mean, I grew up a small town in Delaware on Delaware River, a segregated town, which was something that I'm glad I grew out of and got away from, but quite an experience. And then went to Catholic high school, and I thought at the time the priesthood looked pretty attractive to me, and I thought I'd give it a try. And I was there for 10 years altogether, so I gave it a good enough shot before I realized that's not what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. But so I went to work with Jerry Brown. Now, Jerry Brown had been in the Jesuits as a seminarian for 3 years. And I kept telling Jerry that he was not very serious about his vocation because he only lasted 3 years. I gave it the full shot.
He's an amazing guy, Jerry Brown. I mean, you talk about it in the book. I mean, to have that length of a gap between being governor, I don't think that's ever been done before. Whether you like him or not, that's not the point. But that's an incredible accomplishment in politics, isn't it?
Absolutely. And by the way, he's done an incredible job. I mean, when I worked for Jerry, his first time as governor, in his first term, he was the youngest governor in California history.
Right.
Then he goes off and he worked with Mother Teresa. He was mayor of Oakland. He was Attorney General of California, and then he comes back and he's reelected governor of California for another 8 years, whereupon he becomes California's oldest elected governor. So both the youngest and the oldest. And this time around, he's really done an incredible job. He's brought California back. So he has 6 more months. He leaves at the end of the year. He's termed out. He will leave California with an $8 billion surplus, or what he calls the rainy day fund, at a time when most states are lucky if they can pay their bills, right? And a lot of them have a huge deficit. That Jerry has really put California on solid footing, but like for years to go, because you've got, I say, this rainy day fund. If the economy goes sour again, at least they've got some resources. They won't go belly up.
I thought, back when he ran for president, I guess it was the '80 election, if I'm not mistaken. He used to watch all the interviews and everything, and I thought he had a shot back then. But you talk about it in the book. I guess the math just wasn't quite there. But I thought he had a shot, at least getting into the, on the ticket.
Actually, the first time Jerry ran was in 1976.
Was it 76? All right.
He was 36 years old. He had been governor for less than 2 years. And he jumped in, and I was very much part of that campaign. He recruited me to leave my state job and go off on the campaign trail with him, my first presidential campaign. And he got in. Only problem was he got in too late. So in those days, the primaries were different, and if you had to be on the ballot, right, in every state. And if you weren't on the ballot in every state, people couldn't vote for you. So he got in too late to qualify in every state, and the mathematics weren't there. But at the same time, he won in Maryland, he won in Oregon, he won in New Jersey, he won in Rhode Island. And I think if he'd been on the ballot, as young as he was, in every state, he would have beat Jimmy Carter. Is the one that won. He would have beat Jimmy Carter. People didn't like Jimmy Carter. They didn't know Jimmy Carter. It was a small state of Georgia.
Right.
But Jerry just didn't, as I say, not enough delegates could vote for him to make it happen. Yeah. But it was an exciting time. But then he ran again, as you point out. He ran again in 80. Then he ran again, I think, in maybe 88, which was a disaster.
Yeah. Talking with Bill Press. Again, Bill Press from the Left is the name of the book, A Life in the Crossfire. And let's talk about something that interests anybody who does this, like myself, talk on the radio or wherever we talk from, how you got into the broadcasting. And I know you kind of contacted, I think, the local station in L.A., right, to do commentary. That's how you broke in, right?
Well, I was working for Jerry at the time. I'd been working for him for 4 years, including that presidential run. That was all part of it. And I just decided I wanted to do something on my own. As much as I enjoyed being with Jerry, so I talked to him about it. He said, yeah, good luck. What are you thinking? I said, I think I might like to try to get into media. And I thought about working for a news. I'd never been to journalism school, but I obviously dealt with a lot of reporters in my job as Jerry's policy director. Sure. So I thought about print, and then I thought about radio, and which I'm doing now, of course. And then I thought, no, I want to try television. So I wrote with just a cold letter. Never been to, again, journalism school or anything. Wrote a cold letter to the #1 television station in the state, which happened to be in Los Angeles. I was living in Sacramento. Los Angeles, the second largest media market after New York in the country. And I hit them at a good time when they were looking for somebody new to do some commentary. And here I was coming out of Jerry Brown's office, and I got the call, got a call, and went down, and interviewed, and got the job. Which is one of the points that I make in my book, is that shoot for the moon, and the higher you aim, the higher you're going to achieve, and that taught me a big lesson about, again, going for broke, which I did, got the job. And about a year later, I started doing talk radio in Los Angeles as well. So that was 1980, and I've been at it, radio and television, ever since.
And, of course, it led, and you talk in the book about it. We'll let the audience read it, about how you got the audition to come to Washington, do the Crossfire show. And, I miss those days, with Novak and yourself and Buchanan. The shows were much, I think, more entertaining, but they were fairer then. I'm not taking anything away from the shows today, whether you like one side or not. But I think you had both sides represented much better than you do today. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but those were great days.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I make the point in the book. Crossfire was the first, and I still believe the best political debate show on television. And as you pointed out, I think the essence of it was, first of all, we had half an hour, prime time. There was one topic only. You didn't bounce around all over the place, right? 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there. One topic for half an hour. And there was a host on the right and a host on the left. And you knew that, right? So it's Novak or Pat Buchanan, Mary Madeline, Tucker Carlson. I was the only host after Geraldine Ferraro left to run for Senate. Right. I was there 6 years, 1 year with her, 5 years. I was the only host on the left. And then we would have a guest on the right and a guest on the left. And you really could focus in. As you said, both sides got equal time. It was fair. And we respected each other, and by the way, are still good friends. We lost Bob Novak about 5 years ago, but Pat Buchanan and I are still good friends. Tucker and I are still good friends, and I think that's what people appreciated. They learned a lot, and they saw people who disagreed on the issues but could still get along, right? And that you're so right. That's not the case today, sadly.
Well, that's my issue. I've almost stayed away from watching so many of these, debates now because, no matter what side you're on, doesn't matter. You get the feeling it's like wrestling almost, just yelling at each other. Whereas you guys, you get heated once in a while, but like you said, you were still friends off the air. I think that's the key because you want the audience to still like you in some way, and it's hard to like some of these people doing these shows.
I remember John Sununu said it best one day. He said, life is too short, and this show is too short to take it personally.
Right.
I thought that was a good rule. We all tried to live by.
I got to ask you about one story. We got a few minutes left. We'll go over a little bit if that's all right. But you had a funny story in there about somebody I was surprised that you might have even met in your career. The great Milton Berle liked your show. Talk about Milton Berle. He was quite a character. I always liked him.
You know what? It was So I moved to Los. As I said, I got that TV job in Los Angeles. I moved to Los Angeles, and I mean, in L.A., right? It's one industry town, and the industry is show business, right? So I ended up meeting these people that, to me, were just like almost living on another planet. They were so famous, and they had been such a big part of my life. Some of them, like for one, was, before I get to know Burl, Lawrence Welk. I remember
when I was
a kid, my parents would dance to Lawrence Welk's music
right.
every Saturday night in our living room, right? And I'm walking across the parking lot at ABC News one day, and there's Lawrence Welk. I couldn't believe it. And I met the same way. I met Milton Berle. I met his wife first, and she said, "Oh, I want Milton to meet you. He loves talking politics." And Milton took me out to lunch to the Friars Club.
Wow.
He was quite a character. And again, I had grown up, watching him on television. The makeup, he would say, throw pie in people's face and that kind of stuff. And he took me at the lunch at the Friars Club. He actually came in when I was doing talk radio. He came in the studio on July 4th, and he was my guest for an hour in the studio.
Wow.
He was quite a character, and he was just as funny and slap party in person as he was on television. I still have a copy of his book, which he signed to me that day in the studio. That was it was very exciting to get to know him.
I would have loved to have had a chance to talk with him. I didn't get it. I've talked to some of the comedians. I've had an opportunity, but yeah, he was great. My uncle was on his TV show. He was a singer, my uncle, and he had some great stories about Uncle Milty. He was difficult to work with, but boy, he delivered though.
I remember also. I ran for political office for state insurance commissioner, and Milton came free as a friend and was the entertainment for my big fundraising dinner.
Wow.
And in typical Milton Berle style, he insulted everybody in the room by the time he was finished, right?
If Milton was there, he was in charge. It didn't matter. He was going to take over.
That was his style. That was the time. That's the kind of comedy, I'm talking about.
That's great.
Yeah, at the time. But anyhow, that was a great experience. So again, that was the point of it. I just had a lot of fun experiences and important experiences I wanted to share with people. Put it all together in this book, From the Left, A Life in the Crossfire.
And again, just full, like you said, a lot of great stories in the book. Even just looking at the back right now, you have people from the left and the right. And Coulter likes your book. She doesn't agree with you, but so you're getting people on the right side liking you, Bill. That's good.
Right. When people take it up, you'll see Bernie Sanders has an endorsement on the front, and then on the back, Nancy Pelosi, Jerry Brown, Maxine Waters. I think, who else is I forget now? And on the right,
Tucker Carlson, you got on there, yeah.
Joe Scarborough on the right, Tucker Carlson, and Ann Coulter, who says, I get everything else right, but maybe I can get the facts on my own.
That's right. And again, you can see Bill every morning, 7 to 9, right? You're also simulcast, it's on radio, but it's simulcast on YouTube, right? Your show?
On YouTube, yep, and on Free Speech TV. And the best thing for people is actually either to get a copy of the book or to tune into the show, 7 to 9 a.m. East Coast time, which is a pretty good time for Sarasota area, on BillPressShow.com. That's the easiest, BillPressShow.com.
Great. That's your website, so you can get more information there. But, Bill, pleasure talking to you. We won't wait 7 years. Let's do something maybe around election time if you have a few minutes. But thanks for being with us.
Love to. All right. Great to join you again. All right. Have a great one, and we'll talk soon.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Doug.